Hi, this is Arun, and I have experience of over 8 years in the Workday, and I have both experience in functional and technical. So let me walk you through like what is Workday and how it actually uses for the various organizations, वगैरह. So Workday is a cloud-based application, which means we don't have to install or anything like that. Like our Facebook or Instagram or such are like that. So compared to other ERPs, most advantage in the Workday is like we don't have to install, and the other thing is we don't have to write the queries or anything like for to retrieve the data. And also the other important thing is like the cost-effective thing. Like compared to other ERPs, Workday is like affordable, and also like we don't have to maintain the database. Those are the main advantages in the Workday. So in the Workday, like we are going to cover like organization, staffing models, business processes, security groups, compensation, report writing, and calculate fields. As far as for the HCM, right, reporting and calculate fields are like both functional and as well as the technical, since reporting is actually used as the data source for the advanced reports are used as the data source for the integrations. So, like I said, Workday is like cloud-based application, and the most important thing with the Workday is like, we have to understand each and everything before we go to the other modules. So, and one more thing, like if you have any queries or anything like that, please interrupt me during the session. So these are the things we are going to cover for the HCM, supervisory organizations. One second. Supervisory organizations groups employees into a management hierarchy and are a required function for HCM. So supervisory organizations, see, think like this, like, we are grouping employees into different hierarchies. For instance, think like uh, we are building an automobile, right? We have all the manufacturing parts and everything, but we need to have a structure, outside structure. So supervisory organization, think like this. Supervisory organization is like outside structure of a car or a mobile. Uh, so what we are doing here is like we are putting everything like in a hierarchical way so that we know like who is going to reports to whom. So once we build the hierarchy, there is going to be only one superior organization. Every organization in the Workday are supervisory organizations, whether they are superior organizations, subordinate organizations, it doesn't matter. So every organization, we have to remember this, every organization is a supervisory organization. And we can create subordinate organizations in different methods. And I'm going to show you like when we got the tenant access and everything. But so if anyone asks like, what is the purpose of the supervisory organization? It is nothing but we are creating a hierarchy, a management hierarchy. And once we create the management hierarchy, we know exactly who reports to whom. So we are doing the supervisory organizations is mainly for to represent the information in a systematic way, right? So we have the outer structure. So for the supervisory organizations, we have the outer structure. Oh yeah, forgot to explain about the reorganization. So reorganization is kind of thing like, it actually connects everything into one event. Its main purpose is for the reporting purposes. So when we try to create a supervisory organization in Workday, right, it's going to ask like, are it going to prompt us for the reorganization? If we don't have the reorganization, right, we're going to create a reorganization. Like I said before, reorganization purpose is for the reporting purposes. It connects everything into one event. So all the supervisory organizations, unless of course we use a task to create a subordinate, it won't ask for the reorganization. But when we are creating the superior organization or superior supervisory organization, right, it going to prompts for the reorganization. So if we have a reorganization, that's fine. We're going to use that. If we don't, we're going to create a reorganization. And the reorganization is, like I said, reorganization connects everything together, right? When we go into further sessions, right, I will show you like every time it's going to ask for a reorganization. So in the background, reorganization actually connects everything, groups everything into a single event. That's the main purpose. And the most important thing is it is used for the reporting purposes only. So the first thing is to create the reorganization, and we're going to use that reorganization to create supervisory organizations. And then we can create subordinates directly from the supervisory organizations, or we can create supervisory organization and then we can assign superior. So the the main purpose of the superior organizations or supervisory organizations to create a management hierarchy, right? To put all the information in a systematic way. The next thing is the next module that we're going to cover is staffing models. See, staffing models like in Workday, we used to have 3 staffing models. And then later on, we only have 2 staffing models. One is job management, the other one is position management. So the main differences between the position management and job management is like the main difference. This is going to be asked in the interview. So guys, position management, we can create a position and we're going to define the quantity, like how many people or how many persons we're going to hire for that particular position. So in position management, we have to define the quantity. Whereas in job management, we don't have to define quantity. For instance, position management is like regularly, like for instance, I'm going to create a position for HR and then I'm going to hire 3 or 4 as per the client requirement or the company requirement. In job management, we don't know the exact number. How many people are we going to hire? The best example is campus placements. The only requirements that we are going to have is like, he got to be like on 4-2, must be from the computers background or IT background. So those are the requirements. Those are the hiring restrictions. So in job management, we don't need to define the quantity. I will give you an example. Recently, I have worked on a project. It's a US client during the COVID time, right? They want to create us a separate supervisory organization, COVID emergency response team. So for that, we have to follow the job management because they don't know how many health workers they are going to hire, right? So clearly, we cannot use the position management because we have to define the quantity, whether it is 10 or 12 or 15, whatever, how many positions, it doesn't matter. For each position, we have to define the quantity. But in the job management, we don't have to mention or we don't have to define the quantity. So we use the job management for that particular supervisory organization. So every supervisory organization can follow their own staffing model, whether it can be a job management or position management. However, and also we can change from one staffing model to other. But if we already have the information, we already have the data, right? Like for instance, we created the positions and everything, we already hired people, right? We cannot change that. That's obvious, right? If we don't have any information, we don't have anything, right? We can change. We can go to edit staffing model and we can change the staffing model from one to other. But if we have the information, we cannot edit the staffing model. That means we cannot change from one to other. And the other important thing is in position management, if the person moved or transferred or got a promotion, whatever the reason, if he relieved that position, right, the position going to be open for to be filled from by some other people. Whereas in the job management, if the person is moved, right, then the position is going to be closed. That is one other difference. And in the interview, they're going to ask what is the difference between the position management and job management. The primary answer you should give is like, in the position management, we have to define the quantity, whereas in the job management, we don't have to define the quantity. If they're going to ask you for like, give me an example, you can say campus placement, or you can use the example that I gave you for the COVID emergency response. Any queries, or if you have any queries, please interrupt me. So the next concept we are going to cover here is job profiles. So here we're going to think like this, right? We're going to have a lot of job profiles. So in Workday, we group all the job profiles into job family, and we group all the job families into job family group. Let me explain you like in a simple method. Let's take like we have a Java programmer, web developer, and we have a customer care, and we have security guard. We have four job profiles, right? Clearly, Java developer and a web developer are from the IT background. So we're going to group those two job profiles into a job family called, let's say, IT, right? And we are going to group customer care, security guard, front desk, whatever it is. We're going to group those job profiles into non-IT. So we have four job profiles and we have two job families, right? One is IT and the other is non-IT. Now we are going to group these two job families into single job family group, which is job family group, which we can say all employees, right? I mean, this is just an example to understand the concept. In real-time scenario, we're going to have a lot of job profiles, we're going to have a lot of job families, and to be honest, we're going to have a lot of job family groups too. Let's take another scenario for better understanding. Let's say we're going to have, let's say, six job profiles. The same example, we have Java developer, we have web developer, we have uh, Workday analyst, and we have tier 2 communication support, which is the same for the Workday. And the other two are the same, like customer care and the security guard. So now we have six profiles, and we are going to have a job profile for, let's say, for we don't have to take all these four job profiles, which are web developer, Java developer, Workday analyst, and tier 2 support analyst. We don't have to take all these four into one job family. We can simply say one job family is ERP. Let's say we have a job family called ERP. In that ERP, we're going to group those two profiles, which are Workday analyst role and the support analyst role. We are going to group those two things into one job family, which is ERP. And the other thing is we're going to say development or IT development. And that family, we're going to group web developer and Java developer into one family. And we're going to call that as IT development or IT developer. And the other job family is going to be obviously non-IT, and we are going to group security guard and customer care. And we are going to group all these job families into one job family group, calling as all employees. So it is totally depends on the client or the company how we have to create the job families and job family groups. Obviously, we have to create all the job profiles, right? Then how we are going to group those things, it totally depends on the client, right? So the next thing is I mean, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Um, the next concept we are going to cover is the compensation. So obviously we created the supervisory organizations, and we choose one or other staffing models, and we have created the job families, job profiles, job families, and job family groups. And the next thing is obviously about the pay, right? Here in the compensation, we have to create the grades, grade profiles, and plans like salary plans, allowance plans, merit plans, whatever it is. And then we have to group all those into a compensation package. And these things are going to be the input for the payroll. Um, like in the job profiles, how we are going to create the job profiles, and then we're going to group those things into job family and then job family group, right? Here also what we're going to do is like we're going to create the compensation grade profiles, grades, and also the plans like salary plan and um, any other allowance plans, like whether it is a car allowance or house allowance or whatever it is. So we are going to group all those information, all those things into one package, compensation package. See, we're going to have different eligibility rules here. We have to define those things. We have to define compensation elements. Once we get into the compensation, once we have the tenant access, right, I'm going to show you some examples for a better understanding. Right now, just stay with me or be with me, like, while I am explaining. And if you have any queries, like, you can ask me. So in the compensation, everything once we created, like, once we create the salary plans, once we create the car allowance plan, and the beauty of the in the Workday is, like, we don't have to create multiple car allowance plans. Based on the conditions, based on the eligibility rules, we can create one car allowance plan or one allowance plan, and then we can differentiate based on our eligibility rules, and then we can use the same plan for everyone throughout. Because we're going to have different allowance things for different countries. In US, we have to pay for in terms of the US dollars. In India, we have to pay in terms of the INR. In Canada, in Canadian dollars. So we can differentiate based all these things with using only one allowance plan based on the eligibility rules. So once we got into compensation, I can explain and I can show you more in a detailed way. The next thing is the security. So the most important concept in the Workday is security, because everything revolves around the security. And also here in the security, excuse me, in the security, if you, let's say for instance, you got a job and you're going to be part of a security team in the Workday, right? For the Workday. And if you do any mistake, if you do any blunder, right, it's going to cost your job. Trust me on this, because security is so important. Okay, let me explain, like, what are the security groups and the policies and security items. See, security groups are nothing but, like, like who are they and what type of domains they have the access. Let me give you a scenario. Like, let's say for instance, I'm working as a HR, and that is one type of security group. And if I and in the security, in the Workday security, we have to define the domains, which means domains are nothing but the powers or responsibilities. So a HR can do certain things, right? But HR cannot go and do what a CEO can do, what a financial officer can do, what a director can do, right? So when we are creating a security group, when we are assigning the domains, we have to assign the domains based on their role. And at the same time, if we don't know exactly what domains we should give, right, we have to use the default ones, which are Workday delivered security groups. We can actually go there and we can see what domains we can assign to those security groups. While we are, see, if you are working for a already implemented project, right, it's not really you don't have to do everything from the scratch. But if you are working on an implementation project, you have to create everything from the scratch. You have to create the security groups, you have to assign the domains, and you have to activate those things, and you have to confirm those things. And when you are creating your own security groups, right, you have to create the roles. So like I said, when we go into the security, we're going to take our time. We are going to create our own security groups, and we are going to assign the domains, and we're going to see what domains we should assign. Then how these security going to affect various business processes and other things. Like I said, like, it is very important, and we're going to spend a little bit more time than other concepts in the security. Now let's go to business process. Business process is nothing but like a series of steps to achieve something, like a task. For instance, like hire business process, right? Clearly hire means we are going to hire, right? So in the hire business process, a series of steps, like from start to end. Starting step is nothing but the initiating step. So when we, during these steps, right, we have to assign security groups, and I'm going to explain those things in future sessions. But just for the conceptual purposes, for the introduction purposes, business process is nothing but like, we are going to we are going to complete a particular task or a objective by following a series of steps, by creating conditions, by doing some actions, by doing some approvals. We are going to achieve the, we are going to accomplish the particular business objective. Here we can use child business processes. For example, we're going to, let's say for the high business process, right? We have to propose the compensation. Proposing compensation is itself a business process. So a business process can have multiple child business process in it. So those steps can have another business processes or child business processes in those steps. So when we go into the business process, right, we going to go parallelly with the business process and at the same time with the security, because both are interrelated. Because we cannot complete a business process without having the security groups, without defining the domains, and we cannot complete a business process without having all the security details. Excuse me. So anyway, these are the things we are going to cover for the HCM. And like I said before, for the reporting and the calculated fields is are part of both functional and technical. Any queries so far? Okay, so this is the flow we are going to work. First, we are going to see the organization structures, which are supervisory organizations, cost centers, locations, location hierarchy, companies, and everything. Then we're going to work on the staffing models. During the staffing models, we're going to cover on the creating positions, job profiles, and everything. Once we are done with this, we're going to cover the compensation, and then we are going to cover the business process. At the same time, parallelly, we are going to cover the security. Once we are done with these things, right, then we are going to go with the reporting, and we're going to see various types of reports from simple to advanced, matrix, composite transpose, and then we are going to cover the calculated fields, and then we're going to come back into the reports, and we're going to use those calculated fields in the reports. Those are the ones we are creating, right? And then we also see the Workday delivered reports, and we're going to see the difference between those espresso reports and the reports that we are creating, which are the custom reports. Once we are done with this, right, once we go into the further, like into the integration side, we're going to see how this reporting going to be used as the data source for the EA base, and then the core connectors. Core connectors, we already have the pre-designed templates for the core connectors. So we're going to use some fields to manipulate the data, to retrieve the data. Like I said, right, we don't have to worry about the maintaining the database. So we don't have to write the queries to retrieve the data in the Workday. And we are going to use some XSLT, and we need to have a little bit idea about the XML for to work on the EA-base and core connectors. Any doubts?
No, as of now, no. But only one question I have.
Mhm.
But is it mandatory to have any coding language when you want to learn this Workday?
As far as on the functional side, you don't need to have any coding language.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you going into the technical side, which are integrations, right? You need for the first two parts of the integrations, which are EIBs and core connectors, right? For that, you need to have an understanding of XML, and also you need to know how to write the XSLT code, because we need to transform the data into a meaningful way, and we're going to use the XSLT language for to do that. However, right, XML and XSLT are like basic languages. You can learn from W3 schools within 2 weeks or so. And if you really facing any issues, right, you can actually Google the code, like, to how to transform from XML to XSLT, and you can use those codes. And by practicing, maybe within a month or so, you can have a better understanding of those two languages. However, if you go to the studio integrations, right, you need to have an understanding on the Java too. So you need to use the Java, and it is little bit more complicated. For as far as my advice, right? First, focus on the year-based and core connectors, and with the real-time experience, you're going to, after 1 or 2 years, you can actually learn more, because studio integrations is itself going to be a 30 to 40 hours training period.
Okay.
Yeah, but don't worry about the XML and XSLT. Those are very minimal basic languages, and you can actually learn those things from W3 schools, and it is totally free of cost. And if you have any queries on those things, and I can assist you on that. But like I said, as far as on the functional part, you don't need to have the knowledge on those two things. But if you planning to go have a career on the integrations, and you need to have a little bit idea on those two languages initially, and then after 1 or 2 years, you need to have the understanding of Java too.
Okay, but one question is for this HCM techno-functional training, the codings are not mandatory, is it?
No, not mandatory.
Okay, okay, fine with it. And how are the job demands when it comes to like Workday HCM?
Right now, market is very hard. Like, most of the companies are actually migrating into Workday. I give you one example. Like right now, they are opening multiple offices in Mexico because they don't have enough manpower, either in US or in Canada. So they're going to the Mexico for the cost benefits or whatever it is, and they're also opening a lot of offices in India itself. So
Okay.
according to statistics, like we are looking at least 10 to 50 years, 10 to 15 years of growth in the Workday domain, and we have a lot of roles in the Workday, whether it is techno-functional, whether it is functional consultant, whether it is technical consultant, whether it is integrations, whether it is data conversion team, tier 1 roles, tier 2 roles, tier 3 roles, analyst roles, associate analyst roles. So you don't need to have any prerequisite for the Workday, whether you are a graduate or a postgraduate, right? You can actually learn this, and you're going to have a good opportunity to get into the companies. So
Okay.
the main thing with the Workday is like, theoretically is good. I can explain theoretically, but you have to put your hands on. You have to practice everything. What I'm teaching, whatever you're learning, right? You have to put that into practice. Then only, because I mean, I can speak an hour and you can listen to an hour, whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, you have to practice. Once you practice, once you know how to navigate the Workday, you're going to have a lot of queries. It is better to be to understand right now than going into the interview without understanding, right? So my advice is, whatever we are covering the topics, right? Please practice. Please do practice. Once you practice, you're going to have queries, and I can clear those queries, and then we can, once we are going into more topics, right? You're going to be more confident to attend the interviews. As far as the demand, like for your query, we have a lot of demand right now. The market is hot, so you can understand when I say market is hot, right?
Right, right. But I have one more small question actually.
Hmm.
So this training, it's completely be an hands-on experience for us, right?
Yes, of course, because we are going to provide not only
Okay.
theoretical, but also we are going to provide some projects and assignments, and I highly suggest you to follow through the program from A to Z.
Okay, 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 fine, fine. So fine with it, no issues with it. Okay.
Okay.
So like I have an experience into HR for almost 5 years.
Mhm.
So do you think my experience will be considered when I take a work day?
Oh yeah, that is an added advantage, because most of the HRs are actually right now are moving into the Workday, because those HR actually have an advantage as far as on the pay scale compared to others, right? Because they have the experience, they can easily go into the recruitment in the Workday. So it is always an added advantage for the HRs. I'm not saying
Okay.
that you need to have the HR background, but if you have that, that is an added advantage.
Okay, okay, okay. So that's fine with it, no issues with it, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for all your support. And things are really good to go ahead, no issues with it.
Okay.
And like I'll just talk to the coordinator, and I'll based on a batch start, we'll be enrolling with this batch.
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.